603, this is a regular Brownsville navigational district. Reverend, can you read the prayer, please?
Dear Father in heaven, we continue our meeting tonight, worshiping you and praising you, thanking you for this great port that you've given us charge of. Father, we thank you that we are stewards of all that you've given us. We pray that you continue to keep your hand on this place, keep us safe and secure, all those who work here and who bring business to this place. Father, we thank you that you have made us a crossroads of commerce. Continue to prosper and increase us, continue to give us favor in all those areas of government that we are speaking to right now regarding increasing the business that we can handle here at the Port of Brownsville. Father, we thank you for your favor and your faithfulness and give you praise and thanks in Jesus' name. Amen.
Thank you. Can you all join in the pledge of allegiance?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Texas flag.
I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one and indivisible.
You see, Mark, could I steal like a minute? Sure. I just want to publicly apologize to Commissioner Cowan. I inadvertently called you at the presentation of the Highway 550, Commissioner Reed, and I was trying to say Commissioner Cowan. That was my first public speech, and I had just spoken to Commissioner Reed to give me some tips, and I just, you know, I just wanted.
I'm going to give you a break and forgive you. Okay. Thank you, sir.
Freudian slip.
Okay. I've been asked to take the items out of order. So we're going to take item 17 first. Considering action to accept or reject change order number 7 to the Brownsville Navigation District's internal road project to finalize and accept the project and to request TxDOT refund of fund balance.
Mr. Chairman, Board Commissioners, the item 17 on the agenda is basically to finalize the Brownsville, the BND internal roads project. As y'all know, we had some issues with two of the roads, which was East Mineral and West Mineral Road. They were evaluated with TxDOT. We basically got direction from y'all to try to see what we could do. We got a price from the contractor of $241,242, which was nearly 30% over what we had estimated together with TxDOT. Mr. Andres Espinosa from TxDOT is here, the project engineer. We had estimated users from the contract at about approximately 216, and we anticipated to come in that range. Came in too high. I felt that it wasn't justified. TxDOT concurred that we couldn't justify that expense. So we are asking for you to reject change order number 7 and also to finalize and accept the project as is, and then we will address those issues that we need to address afterwards. And Mr. Espinosa is here to see if you have any questions. I don't know if you have anything.
May I ask you a question?
Yes, sir.
In other words, what you'd ask is, by doing this, we would get the $260 that would be paid to us, and then we would.
No, that's a very good question.
Yeah, actually, there is a, if you recall, we advanced money to TxDOT to be the project manager, included essentially payment to cover all of the construction plus a 12% project management fee. Well, that money TxDOT has had since the beginning. Once we did all that, then they started funding the project. So there's still a credit balance available that is essentially our money. So if we accept the project as is, what they will do is they will begin the closeout of the project. We in turn anticipate that there's about $400,000 that they will return to us as a result of that excess cash that's been in there. We will take that money and use that to repair the roads or whatever balance. I think we both felt, and I know TxDOT did not want to turn the project over to us with that unfinished business. I mean, their proposal, and I think everybody's proposal was, let's get it finished, but we felt that the cost that the contractor proposed to do that was excessive. They could not justify it in their recommendation, and we would not justify it in our recommendation to you. So we all agreed, let's close it out. They'll start the process of we will ask for closing out in our reimbursement. They'll start, get our money back, and what we'll do in the meantime is we'll be working to repair those roads ourselves and use that money that we're getting back to pay for that.
Repair that. That
In
sounds
fact, I
correct.
believe that your agenda item has all those numbers in detail.
Yes, it does.
And the estimated number that we expect to get back is
375.
375.
192.
That is assuming that they charge us the 12% of engineering, and we had initially been led to believe that it was gonna be maybe in the 7 to 8% range. So, you know, this is a worst-case scenario. If my numbers are right, and if Andy concurs, that's what we should expect to get, worst case. And hopefully we'll get a little bit more than that once they go through their numbers and their time sheets and everything, the actual time spent doesn't amount to the full 12% of the project, so.
This is the only issue left?
Yeah,
Yes.
and the other thing too is I think we're both ready to get this thing completed and move on. And
Well, basically, the problem there is the base in the road, and I think our guys can fix that, and
What our proposal here would be a combination of in-house and contract labor. We obviously have the capability of doing all the base work. And what happened in these particular roads is that when they did the vehicle counts initiative, if you recall, these were kind of single lane. In fact, one of them wasn't even paved. And so the truck traffic or the vehicle counts were very low. Well, now that they're paved, guess what? You know, there's a lot of traffic on it, so the road didn't hold up, and it really needs to be the base on the shoulders, because the center where the road used to be is okay, it's the shoulders, and they just need to be redone and repaired, and so we propose to go ahead and do it ourselves, and they concur. I mean, they've offered their assistance from, you know, anything they can do to help us with, you know, looking at how to do it, recommend how to do it, and, you know, TxDOT, you know, would have very much have liked, let's just turn the project over, complete everything done to everybody's satisfaction, but we'll spend a lot more time haggling over this than what it's worth, I think, so we agreed, let's just move on.
Good. Make a motion by Commissioner Reed.
second.
Second by Commissioner Town. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, Mr. Espinosa.
Okay, item number 2, public audience. We have no one signed up to speak at this time. Item number 3, received director's report. A, received port monthly operations summary report.
As you know from the budget presentation, our revenues are doing very well against the budget. So you see in comparison to actually the adopted budget, not the budget or something smack, but we are still running ahead of last year and we're running well ahead of budget. I would note that the rail cars, maybe you should see that the PRG did 2,734 rail cars last month. And that is a really good month for them. I went back and looked at some of their numbers. The average of the last 2 years about 2,300 a month, so that's very good. And that's been since about February since they've had this kind of movement, so that helps them out a lot. It's an indication of our cargo moving through very quickly, and we hope it continues. We're looking forward to. On the waterborne cargo, our primary metal products are steel, and our non-metallic minerals are really doing well. Petroleum is about running about even from last year, but overall we're just slightly ahead of 2011. Our vessel counts, we are a little ahead on our cargo vessels. We're way behind on our barges, which indicates we're getting some larger vessels, even though we're getting some smaller vessels. And we've gotten quite a few ocean-going barges, which bring in good quantities at one time. All of our other items here are very well. They're running on track. And our grandfather for lease rental increases. To date, we've invoiced about $229,000 lease rental increases, and that's resulted, as we only move 1 month's worth of increase at a time to our capital projects. We've taken about $137,000 into capital projects from our lease rental increases. We're collecting about 93% of our property taxes, so we're doing well.
What percentage is that?
93?
93, that's very good.
If you look at, just kind of again commenting back on revenues, I mean, if we were just to take the straight line projection for the year, we would do about 15.4. So again, just to say we're being conservative and saying, even though we've increased the revenue projection, we're only looking at about 14. I mean, we could very well wind up, 15 plus. So, but again, that's assuming that the second year replicates, or the second 6 months are like the first 6 months. And on expenses, even there, if you would project that out, you'll see that we would come in lower than even what we have on the budget amendment. That kind of, again, taking the conservative side, the numbers have been showing up much better after the financials are completed than what we have in our budget projections. So.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank you. Great meeting.
Yes, it is.
We are going to
Slide show?
the screen.
Come on.
Slide over this.
I won't bite you. Come on. No te voy a meter nada.
Mr. Chairman, Board Commissioners, the construction report for this month, August 15th, 2012, obviously comprises all the projects that we're working on, well, most of the projects that we're working on. The first one that I'm going to report to you is, of course, the deepening and widening study. On this one, I'm just going to try to touch on the points that, the issues that I believe are new, that you probably have not received information on. Of course, as you know, we've been working very intensely on the rig employment benefits, which is section 6009. Right now, that was submitted, as I had mentioned to you before, almost 2 months ago, but yesterday we've got, Monday I should say, we got the actual document that had been submitted to ASA. That's part of what I want to explain to you real quickly. If that document is accepted by the ASA's office, our port would be classified as an offshore oil and gas fabrication port by definition, and as such, the law would obviously apply to us. The value, the way the document reads, the value of future energy production fabrication contracts shall be included in the NED, which is the National Economic Development Benefits calculation for the project to determine the benefit to cost ratio. The benefits will be the additional or incremental contract value beyond those contracts that can be done without the deepening and widening project. The basis will be the documentation from the facility, which will indicate the increment from the value of contracts that can be done without the project to the value of contracts that can be done with the project. That issue is still something to be determined, because I've argued with them that I believe that the our without project condition could be a zero condition if our fabricator winds up moving out of the port because they can't bring in bigger rigs. So that's, even if that isn't the case, we would still have a very good increase in the, I'm sorry, let me go back, increase in the cost-benefit ratio. One of the things it mentions that a clear link to the project must be established, which means a link to the fact that the project, the deepening and widening, is going to result in that increase. And very importantly, the data is to be treated as proprietary and will not be disclosed publicly. Why is that important? Because the data has to come from the fabricator themselves. The fabricator, which in our case is Amphels, would have to provide them the information, and it would have to be submitted with a certificate by their chief executive officer that backs up the information. Now, the good part about that is that the way the document is written, there would be very little questioning of that documentation if it's submitted with the proper certification. So in the final analysis, the decision document, which is basically the calculation document, will show the benefit to cost ratio for the traditional NED benefits, which is without the rig employment benefits, and it will also show the benefit cost ratio for the traditional plus the section 6009 benefits. So we're going to actually see both numbers in the final document. And we're still trying to get, and we're working very intensely with our consultants in Washington, D.C. To try to press them to get. I just got a text a few minutes ago from Glenn that he's been pressing Sandy Lower to try to get us this done. So we're getting that finalized.
Is this something that's still possible by the end of the year? Is it, as far as get it?
Actually, it was promised to us by the end of last week, and it still hasn't happened. because 3 weeks ago they told us in 2 weeks we will have it issued, and it still hasn't happened, so we're trying to get it this week. As soon as we get it, a lot of the calculations have already been done, so we expect the actual completion to be within 2 months of when they authorize it. And of course, we still have to meet with AmFILS and make sure that they're okay with all the numbers and they're okay with the certifications and everything else. So another project that is actually not a port project, but it's something that involves some of our land, and it's going to be it's going to have an impact on our facilities, is the CBP Communications Tower, which is over at the far east end. And right now it's just the beginning. They've got the shack going on right there, and they've moved a little bit of equipment. They've got the control panel there already, and basically this is the area where they're going to have the equipment right there. That's of course just their equipment trailer, and so this has already gotten going, and hopefully we'll be showing you more of it as it goes on. Another project that we are working on that was actually completed by our own maintenance department is the bull rails on docks numbers 10 through 13. These are the bull rails that were right on the edge of the dock. A lot of those bull rails were damaged, and some of them were missing. So as you can see, some of these are brand new that were installed by our own throughout the dock. And that's one of the projects that we had actually in the listing of the improvements for the docks. So that's now going to be deleted from the estimates that we're working on for the capital projects. Another that we're working is the lift station renovations. This one here, I've got several lift stations right now. I've got a contract for 4 of these, and I'm going out for another contract for an additional 4. And basically, right now we did the electrical work separately. Here, this is the beginnings of the new panel right there. As you can see, they removed some of the fence there. We're going to put a new concrete pad and chain link fence around this one. That's the contract that you all approved last meeting. I've got well, this is lift station 12. I also got 11 and 13 in the same vein as this one. This is lift station number 5, which is a little bit different. This is right on Milo and Hostos. And this is again is going to suffer the same improvements, except this one is a little bit bigger, but that's an ongoing project. Another project that, well, this is something that's been going on recently. We have a lot of steel slab. If you've had a chance to tour the port, we have a lot of steel slab here. We're only going to show you some slab on Patio 22, but there is a lot of steel throughout the port right now. Another project.
That's the patio that we finished earlier this year.
Yes, that's the patio that was finished earlier this year. Another project that is, this one actually we have on your agenda for you to authorize us to go out for, excuse me, for bids on this. This is the re-roofing of sheds 7 and 8. This is 8, Mr. Austin?
That's 7.
This is 7. And as you can see, there's some damage here on the end, and there's additional damage in several areas throughout the shed. The other shed, this is actually shed 8, and you can see a lot of the damage there near the center vent. And what we're looking at, one of the options that we're looking to do is a roof of this type. This is actually one of our lessees that has been re-roofing his facility, and this would be similar to what we may wind up with as one of the possibilities, one of the options that we're considering that would actually bring it way below the budget that we originally had thought it was going to cost. So this has some fasteners that they seal, and then they hot seal it as well. And basically that's it. I didn't want to show you a heck of a lot of pictures, but that's what we have there. Now in shed number 7, we had some problems with shed number 7. There was a bit of a cave-in right at the southwest corner of shed number 7. As you can see, that hole is there pretty big. There's material that migrated from there. It's actually too far from the face of the dock itself, so you know I'm a little bit puzzled as to where, you know, how that developed. But as you can see on this picture, there's some concrete chunks over here, and those are going to be removed. This is work that is going to be done by our own in-house maintenance department. After removing of the rubble and everything, we're going to backfill it with cement stabilized limestone, and then replace the deck with approximately, well, the existing deck is approximately 6 inches thick, but if you remember that, you know, these docks were not designed for a lot of stuff that's going in there now. Right now it's being used for steel coils. So we're gonna beef it up a little bit, and we're probably gonna go with at least 8 inches of concrete on the new deck that we're gonna do here. Another project here is the reskinning this has also been done by our own forces, the reskinning of shed number 4. And this is a portion that is already been completed right now. Up to this point is where we've done. The rest of it is in the works, but that's ongoing. That project had been stopped because of other priorities, but now our maintenance department is focusing back on this one. This is a shot actually of shed number 12 that we've included to show you what this is ultimately going to look like, basically the whole continued skinning throughout.
Right, that is correct. We started that project a few years ago, and because of other work that has come up, it's been delayed, but we only have the north side, that half of the north side are shed 4, and we will complete all the sheds, all the reskinning of the sheds.
Once 4 is done, all the sheds have been reskinned.
Start all over again.
Another project that we're working on right now, we have this on the table. This on the drafting table, the 550 canopy utility extensions. Here, as you can see, this is the shed. This is the SH 550 connector. The canopy is going to be approximately right there, and as you can see on this layout, we have the 475 feet of gravity line that we're going to put there, gravity sewer. A lift station that we will put there, and right now the first option is to put a force main that would discharge into a manhole right over here, right next to our sewer treatment plant. We're also contemplating an analysis to go down in this direction, but we're still unsure of the, and actually this is where the sewer line is. We're unsure as to how whether these are still operational, and if the only thing is connecting here would result in 2 borings under the rail, under the main rail here and under the spur. So right now we think this is going to be the least expensive option. But so we're making preparations for both.
The other thing that does too, though, is that it provides utilities in an area of the port where we don't have utilities.
Exactly.
So as we start to see perhaps the expansion of tenants into those areas, now we will have services out there. So, that's the other part about it, is if we go the other way, that still remains open.
And see, this is our water map. We would be providing water. We didn't show that on this layout, but the water would be on this side. We would have a water line that would provide water to the canopy from that side. So this is one of the projects that we're working in-house, and we're going to bid it out as soon as possible. On the internal roads project, I did not anticipate that we were going to advance the other items, so I had some information here. Basically, it's just a summary of what we already mentioned to you. The contract is completed. We got the proposal from the contractor for 281, 242. The estimated price was 216. We can justify it. I mean, this is just redundant already, as I said. So the contract closeout bid was expected today. That's already happened. So what that'll do is that as soon as Andy actually has had the document ready to request our funding refund since last week, waiting for your confirmation. Since you've already done that, that document is going to go out tomorrow. And one thing he was telling me earlier that he expects for us to get our funding in approximately 120 days. So hopefully that'll pan out in that regard.
20 days.
That's
like 60 to 90 days.
That's 4 months. That's the time that it takes.
That's next year.
Another project, which is obviously something that we're very happy about, is our Tiger Grant Cargo Dock 16 project. This is, of course, the area for Cargo Dock 16. That's our Cargo Dock 15. You've seen this before, the Dock 15 area with now Dock 16, the way that it's going to look right there, 600 additional feet of space. We had a really, really great meeting this morning with MARAD, the meeting that we were hoping to have last month on July 17th actually happened yesterday. The proposal, this morning. Sorry. This morning at 8:30 we spent a good deal of time with them, and basically one of the things that we discussed is that even though the application had mentioned the Cargo Dock 16 price at $20 million, we wanted to kind of get them prepared for a little bit of a higher price, so we mentioned to them a possibility of 22 or 24 million. And here I'm showing you 24. Of course, our application had a mobile harbor crane of 45 and rail improvements of 4.5 million, 2.2 million. But part of the result of the discussion this morning is that both of those were accepted to be deleted from the project as far as the funding is concerned. So all we are going to be obligated to do as far as merit is concerned is the Cargo Dock 16 project itself. So what that leaves is a total project cost of 24 million because we've already deleted those two. And with the Tiger grant of 12 million, of course, we need to come up with the other 12 million. And I don't know if Mr. Andrea wants to add anything to that, but basically that is the... So the last project that I'm going to show you is 550. If you guys have driven it around, it's it's pretty advanced right now. This is just one shot of the main asphalt and barrier looking down towards the port. This is the only one I'm going to show you as far as that, because all the others would have been, well, actually, no, I had two. I forgot I had two. This is the one going towards the expressway. These are the main lanes with the concrete barrier down the middle. This is the basically completed Old Port Isabel Road overpass. And this is a shot of the overpass itself, all done with the railing and everything. This is the 3248 overpass. This is the rail overpass also completed with all the approaches. Here's the 550 sign on the gantry, and then that's the toll gantry over there. This is the toll gantry from up close, where all the equipment is going to be for the toll assessment. This is one of the 4 ramps. I'm only going to show you one of the 4. This is the ramp that would actually come in and then go into the port in that direction. That would be the port. And as you can see, work has progressed significantly on the overpass ramps here. This is the ramp coming in from town going towards the island. And then this is the ramp going the other direction. This will be on the ramp. On this one, they've already set the header bulkhead right there for the overpass structure. And that's it. That's just one of the seagulls that we have flying around the port. And I don't know if there's any questions.
And the only comment to that is, the Chairman Lopez mentioned about the groundbreaking for the SH 550 connector last Friday. So what they told us is that that project's been led. It's about a $39 million project. It should be completed in a year. And once that's done, then the whole deal is complete. This project should be complete by the end of this year. The other one should be complete by the end of next year. So once that's complete, then you would have a direct shot all the way on to 7783 without having to exit off of 511 if you wanted to take that whole thing. So that's good. At least that piece of 550 will be done. And I guess the RMA told us they were going to do it. And so they've gone through and it's going to get done.
Thank you, Mr. Charles.
Thank you.
Very good.
Thank you, Mr. Charles.
Item number 4, consideration and action on the following consent agenda items. A, approval of the minutes of the regular board meeting of August 1st, 2012. B, approval to authorize payments over $25,000. Item 1, Texas Municipal League, renewal of district's windstorm policy in the amount of $238,134. Item C, approval of the following leases. Item 1, Marcelino Ochoa, new lease. 2, Otto Niñez Sigfredo Garcia Palacios, SAIDCB, new lease. 3, Aguilar Brothers, Inc., new lease. 4, SPI Seascape, Inc., release. 5, Jorge Gonzalez, new lease. 6, Jorge Gonzalez, new lease.
Any questions, Commissioner?
So I guess, Ms. Rosenbaum, you're recommending all these, been through everything, all the leases? Okay.
I'll make a motion.
Motion by Commissioner.
A second.
Second by Commissioner Pound. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Item number 5, presentation by Roberto Ruiz on the preliminary design of the new 550 entrance canopy funded under the Port Security Grant number
Put that in our budget.
Which one? Yes, that one. Thank you. Need a better presenter.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, good evening. Is the projector? In the interim, I guess I'll just inform you that we've had 2 security meetings with respect to the design of the 550 entrance here to the port. We have done a preliminary design and also preliminary studies on the facility, which I will show you in a 5-6 slide PowerPoint presentation, and then I have a small flyby, if I may. Essentially what we've done is, here it is. This is the State Highway 550 canopy entrance design. Right. Okay. Our design encompasses, here's the Highway 48, and the area of the new canopy design is going to be right here between the old 48 and the new 48. As you know, the bridge is all this has changed. We have a design area that has been anticipated by the installation of this road already, right about here where the new canopy design is going to be being proposed. This is an enlargement of this area. This shows the survey. We completed a survey so far. This shows the elevations and topography. Mr. Chavez, as you mentioned earlier, is working on the utility extension off of Highway 048 up to this area. Right now, there's no utilities at this point, but there are provisions for utilities to be tapped into for our proposed design. Essentially, what our design encompasses, a primary canopy coming off the Highway 48, and it will also have a secondary, almost like what you have here at the current entrance, with some modifications. This shows you the initial testing that was been done, soils boring test. There was 3 soils boring tests at 35 feet deep. That will give us the initial design criteria for the design of the foundation to be used by the engineers. By the way, this soils boring tests were done on the outside area, if you will, of the pavement of the road. We're not doing any work at all for the canopies to be going through the existing pavement. We're not touching that. This is, shows you photographs of the vicinity. You can see here where the elevation height, there's approximately 7 to 8 feet of fill from the natural grade all the way where the new 550 entrance is going to be. So it is elevated, and for purposes of flood and everything else. This shows the photographs of the existing pavement that's been there and the bulkheads that are there. This is an existing block out, if you will, where the proposed guardhouse is to be located. Anticipation at the time was to be provided here, obviously not having the design at that point, but this is where the anticipated design is going to, or the guardhouse is going to be, and the utility conduit is all in here at this point. This is photographs of the existing canopy that obviously, in some cases, we are going to modify, not that we want to copy or duplicate this. Part of the design criteria that we are hoping to implement is to improve the situation that we currently have. Concerns that have been expressed by the guards have been the lack of proper protection onto the guardhouse, the rain, the sun, and it is problematic in terms of the top canopy, the height of it. It does not give you proper protection of the current guardhouse. Obviously, the guardhouse has not been modified, and there are some problems with it as it is. Also the secondary canopy here is somewhat relatively high and has some concerns with lack of protection. So some of these ideas were obviously taken into consideration for the new design. The basis of the design elements that I've been trying to implement are essentially the basis of the Seafarer Center. It just completed, as you know, a lot of these design implements that we are seeing here, for instance, of the arch that is a replica of the original harbor masters and the new harbor masters, we're trying to bring in and incorporate some of these designs into some of the buildings. These canopies, eyebrows, if you will, to protect the windows and also give them an emphasis of architectural design, have also been used. The tower itself also is an indication of a lighthouse that provides the proper lighting and also accentuates the overall design scope of the building. So some of these ideas have been incorporated into the new design. If I may, I want to show you, here's one more slide. These are some of the considerations for design ideas. As I mentioned, it's about 7 to 8 feet high above natural ground. We are going to have to provide piles into the ground. We have done studies up to 35 feet. Based on that, we're going to provide the design criteria for the engineers. There is a 18-foot high limitation of the ceiling height for the trucks to go through as far as the design, including the secondary over here. We do not have a high sloping angle on these canopies. We weren't trying to implement as much protection from the sun and rain as possible for the guards and also for the people in the facilities here. So given this criteria, I'd like to show you a flyby of the design, proposed design. I want to do it from over here because I need to control my computer from over here too. Can you all hear me from back here?
Yes.
Yes.
As I mentioned earlier, the design that we are proposing provides for a complete width of the canopy to extend 92 feet across the full length of the road. We're not penetrating any of the road structure at all. It provides for a complete canopy protection onto the guardhouse. Some of the design elements that I mentioned earlier were to provide these eyebrows over the areas of the building in order to give it a continuity of style and detail. We're also providing the 18-foot ceiling that provides access for trucks to go in and provides more essentially the protection of the proper protection of the guardhouse and the guards underneath this new canopy. It is a slope roof that we are proposing. It's not a single slope. It provides a lot of protection. We also are emphasizing a lot of the columns in terms of how heavy and bulk, the bulkiness of the column, by providing a faux stone, wrapping them up in material that protects the canopy. Some of the canopy design that we're using is plaster. Also, we were using stainless steel metal roof, which is applicable for this area. And one of the key features of our design, as I mentioned earlier, as far as the tower of the Seafarer Center, is to propose a tower, or if you will, lighthouse entrance as you come in and approach off the 550 onto the port of Brownsville. I felt that the design of the canopy was not enough. Therefore, this tower provides the accent detail that I think that's needed. Also, the colors, I integrated colors into it and provide the material resources that would also integrate some of the buildings nearby. As you can see, it does provide, an accent point as far as detail, and people traveling over the Highway 48 above on the overpass would actually be able to very easily see that this is the entrance to the Port of Brownsville by this entrance right here, and also the tower. One of the other areas that we did is, or the design features, is to provide the secondary. The canopy is also now gives you better protection by providing the 18 feet required and providing the proper sun angles and coverage of the secondary use by doing this cantilever effect of the roof canopies over the existing pavement, and then again, therefore not penetrating into the existing pavement. We are going down, at least we are hoping, or thinking about between 30 and 40 feet, depending on the stability of the soil there. All this has been provided to you, and we have done a preliminary cost, which is in your packet, and these costs obviously reflect the actual takeoff of material. I do not like to do square footage cost because it doesn't give you an accurate reading of what the cost is, but in essence, we have done a complete breakout of this canopy as designed. Part of this also does not include some of the equipment that's also part of the grant that has been applied for. But the $1.5 million canopy does provide for the full resources of this new design that's being proposed or presented to you this evening.
A lot of money.
Thinking in the security meetings that we went over several things. You know, obviously cost is one of them. You know, what the significance of the entrance will be for the port, as well as the significance for the termination of the 550 entrance. The tollway design of the road is on its way. Obviously, trucks are going to be brought in via this route. Of course, we don't know that this is going to be the primary route. We still can contemplate that the existing route is going to be the primary. We are going to have to provide, in essence, an entrance to the Port of Brownsville at the end of the 550. We have done improvements to the existing facilities by looking and talking to the guards, making sure that the things that we are for the proper protection of this canopy, or of the guards.
Well, the way I look at this, Roberto, and my fellow commissioners, is we have $960,000 given to us by the federal government. And if we can't build an entranceway to this port for $960,000, we've got a serious problem.
We actually have less than that.
Yes.
Well, 640. If you can't build a canopy and an entryway to protect our roads for $640,000, we don't need to be spending $550,000 of our money when we have so many capital needs that are going to create jobs and create the infrastructure to bring those jobs here.
And that's the loom. I understand fully. You know, I mean, when we set out to do the design of this, we were looking at more of the design criteria of what we needed to do. I mean, obviously, as an architect, we provide the essence of the design criteria. Budget is always in the back of our mind. We knew that there was grant money available. We knew the number that were there. We are essentially providing a canopy that's twice the size that you currently have of what you already spent. The canopy that you spend here at the entrance is about half that size and half the cost. So if you double the cost of the existing one, currently at this point. Now, yes, we can provide, you know, a reduced version of this. Will give us the benefits of the protection that we need, and will give us the benefit of, in essence, having the entrance. You know, we were, you know, the highway cost was near $100 million. Can you justify the expenditure of 1.5 for a canopy entrance to the port? Well, that's a decision, obviously, that this commission will have to undertake. We can, you know, look at options in terms of reducing the square footage, options of reducing material costs, option of taking elements out of the design, providing basically the guardhouse, which is the main emphasis of an entrance to the port, which is the guardhouse. That in itself, if you break that out, it roughly comes in about $100,000. You know, everything else is the added elements of design of the protection of the canopy.
Also in your specs, that you have bullet-resistant glass.
Yes.
Well, I think people are going to shoot at our guards.
I was hoping nobody will ever use it, but Chief Garcia required that. He was wanting to make sure that his guards were well protected. That is an item. It's about $30,000 of bulletproof glass. It is something that you currently don't have, but we are looking at for the future. You know, again, we are looking at protection of entrance to the Port of Brownsville and making sure that the guards are safely protected. And that is part of the cost of that, yes.
It's pretty.
I've been told that.
It's very nice. It's very, very nice.
Well, yeah.
that decision doesn't have to be made today. So, I mean, this is essentially a presentation of the design, of the proposed design of the facility, and the intent was just to make you aware of the presentation and given the design elements that went into this and how he arrived at this. And so, that's, whether we wind up with that at the end of the day, I guess it's a decision we will have to make as we deliberate going forward on this project.
This presentation, we've done 2 presentations to the Security Committee, so I guess our job is to go back to the Security Committee, come up with options. Mr. Cowan, I guess, heading the committee, would like to hear from you.
Yeah, one of the things that I'd like us to think about is that we also, the image that when we bring a prospect to the port, when somebody comes into the port or even goes by the port, and they look at the entrance to the front door of our facility, and if the front door looks like a shabby thing, then it's hard to bring in the big dollar guys. So I think that looking at it from that perspective, I think that we should consider having something that is aesthetically pleasing. And I'm not saying we should go to spend $1.5 million, but we need to look at the budget and figure out what we can do. But at the same time, if we do something on the cheap and then later have to do it, redo it, and if we don't put a soffit in there and then it all rusts underneath there's a whole bunch of things we talked about doing that you could eliminate. But as you do those things, then you don't get the, and they could have beams under the thing, and it wouldn't, the structure would not be as expensive. But having that fan go all the way across the top without any beams in the middle has got value, because you don't have anybody running into one of them or anything of that nature, which could then wind up causing a problem. There's a lot of things to consider, and we're just at the first, just this first stage of where this thing's going to go. So,
If I may, just in terms of reducing cost, obviously you reduce cost by cutting square footage. That's how you reduce major costs. You don't reduce it by, taking out a piece of trim or something. I think we are definitely, we got to do something. The 550 is on its way. It's coming into the Port of Brownsville. We have to provide something that shows the Port of Brownsville is here. Now, we can come up with alternatives. That's why we're saying this is where we need to go. But in terms of style, I think the style is generally accepted. In terms of how to reduce the scope of this work, is going to have to be done in terms of square footage. That's how we save money, major costs. I think some of the things that we can give up is maybe, full protection, maybe semi-protection, like Mr. Cowan was saying. Maybe we don't have to put a full soffit underneath. That could be an option. We can come up with alternatives to see how we can reduce this cost and reduce the scope of the project, and still giving us the full emphasis of what we need to have. The highway's going to be finished here at the end of next year. We need to start here this pretty soon. We've been on hold for a while because of the funding.
The only thing about not having a soffit is then the roof, your soffit, your ceiling starts to, your steel structure starts to, rust because of the, and then you've got to constantly be painting and chipping, and it adds a lot to the project. Either pay me now or pay me later. It's one of those kind of things that we need to look at real seriously before we delete that option, I think.
Is it the Commissioner's decision for us to come back and obviously a different presentation? Will be more in line with, I don't know if we can achieve the budget number for the grant money. Obviously that in itself was, if you look at the dollar amount that was, delineated for that, it was not very well planned for a project of this type. But certainly we can come back to this commission and be able to present something that could be more in line with an acceptable dollar amount with the budget that we have.
I think it would be ideal to, because it's a little over that it's over from the money that's being given to us? Has the $500,000 been accounted for from the folks in finance, where it's going to come from, or how it's going to be taken from the budget?
Well, actually, you're looking at $640,000.
640.
You subtract that from the project estimate. And, I mean, that's one of those capital projects of a whole list of other capital considerations. I mean, you know, it's a matter of you know, how we decide to expend the funds that we have and on what capital projects. I mean, this is, you know, you've got 20 projects, you know, you can do 10, and this is what it's going to cost you, and, you know, they all have varying degrees of cost and importance to the port. So, I mean, if we were to do this, it would have to come out of that capital pool. You know,
And the bids might come in cheaper than that, too.
you never know until you bid it, that's
Yeah.
correct. The other
The
thing
Siemens
too
center
is
came
that,
in
you know, one other consideration, it
40%.
depends, is that you face it. But at this point, if we're gonna do this, then we have to fund the balance of what we have outside of the grant amount. It's gonna have to come out of our capital budget.
The good news is we have the money. The other thing is the dilemma, what we're going to use it for. So,
Now, the tower that's there, it serves like it's a nice sitting tower there, but what purpose ultimately would it have in terms of its functionality?
One of the design criteria is that Mr. John Sawicki requested that we provide an air-conditioned space for the equipment that's going to go into the security of the canopy. Now, it doesn't have to be there, but we can't possibly put it inside the guardhouse. We took the option of that if we were to have the tower there, we take the opportunity to use the first floor air conditioning and provide that equipment in there. So it does have a purpose for that. The other purpose obviously is to signify or designate that that's the entrance. There's no guard or anything up there for any means, but it does provide as an accent design.
Yeah,
It's a machine gun, something.
No,
Well,
no.
we actually, you know, you could use it as an observation tower when you would need it, because it would be
You're right.
high enough off, but not whether we do it as a crow's nest with a sniper, you know, carrot in there, that's a different deal. But, I mean, I think that if you're going to get something up that high, it probably would be, in my opinion, a good idea to be able to get up there when you need it and be able to use it as an observation.
if you had a brush fire somewhere. at a
Well, I'll give you an
distance-
example. When we had the propane tank leaks, remember, all of 48 was closed. You couldn't really see, you would have been able to see what was going on from this vantage point.
We do have a ship slider going up there to changing lights and so forth, so we have an internal circulating stair up there that's part of the design to have access up there, but it's not projected to, you know, have a tower.
What would happen if we had just a ladder you climbed up to a deal instead of having a spiral staircase?
Well, it's a ship slider what we have, Mr. County. It's just a ship slider going up there.
Oh, it's a ship ladder, it's not a spiral
No, it's a
staircase.
ship slider, I'm
Okay.
sorry, it's a ship slider.
Okay.
Okay.
And then the 550 is gonna have 4 lanes, is that right?
Yes.
4 lanes coming in, 2 lanes coming in, 2 out. One of the questions that I raised was the turning radius, but right now, in your current entrance, you don't have a turn radius for your trucks. You do not have the luxury of having a turning radius at this point. That's something that needs to be in talking to the police chief. Those people that will have to come in will have to be escorted and be routed out to a different exit. So we didn't have anything to do on the design of the highway. That's been pre-planned, but we do have to contemplate that.
Okay. What about doing the canopy just to cover the guardhouse and the 2 closer lanes to the guardhouse? You know, that would, should cut down on the cost significantly, because you're not, you know, having that much material to cover the whole.
One of the things, Commissioner, we were asked not to penetrate the existing road. If we reduce the size, right now the width of the road is about 90 feet. We're going about 94 feet in width. This canopy is about 94 feet. So in order to do that, we would probably have to bore in through the existing concrete. We reduce the width of that. And that, yeah, that could be acceptable. I mean, we have to bore through about, what, 10 inches of concrete, Mr. Chavez? The thickness of the concrete out there is about 10 inches?
No, it's about 12 inches.
12 inches.
Pretty substantially
We're trying to
reinforced.
avoid that.
But I don't know exactly how that idea of not boring the concrete came through. What I meant when they were taking the samples is not to take the soil samples in the concrete, but if you're able to save money by putting columns inside within that, I mean, that is definitely open for the, at least I don't see any problem unless someone else has given that. But,
No,
you know what I'm
it's
saying?
more of the square footage. So the column placing it does not have a whole lot of things. It's more of the area. We begin looking at reducing the scope and trying to come up with shading factors that will be efficient to provide protection for the guardrails. I think our task is really to come up with a different design, a reduced design that is closer to the working budget, providing a lesser square footage and possibly looking at alternative materials. I think that's our task, that we need to sit down with the security committee and come up with a design that works within those parameters. And hopefully it'll be to everybody's liking and satisfaction. And it will be. Okay. You have any other questions? I'd be happy to answer.
Excellent, very nice.
Thank you.
I appreciate it. Thank you very much, Mr.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank you,
Reese.
Mr. Reed.
Let's just,
Item number 6, consideration and action to approve
talk about it on Saturday.
amended BA 2012-001 to the district's operating and capital budget fiscal 2012.
Commissioners, we have discussed this in the workshop earlier, and it's ready for your action.
Motion by Commissioner Reed,
one second.
second by Commissioner Amula. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Item number 7, receive submission of the 2012 ad valorem property tax appraisal roll.
Commissioners, we have several steps tonight on the road to adopting a property tax, and the first thing is for me to present to you the appraisal roll as we received it from the appraisal district, and we would ask you to acknowledge that you have received it.
That's on page 43.
Big page.
All we're doing is approving.
Yeah.
You're just
Actually, you're acknowledging you received it.
receipt of the appraisal roll.
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner Count, second by Commissioner Reed. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Item number 8, receive submission of estimated collection rate for the 2012 ad valorem tax levy.
Here you go.
Part of our calculations on determining how much general obligation levy we can impose is whether or not we're going to collect 100% of our general obligation taxes. And we go through a lot of calculations. We get to include in that penalties and interest, and if we can come up to more than 100% collected in 1 year, including the late we can certify to you that we will collect 100% of our general obligation taxes. And that is what we're doing for you tonight. We have collected 93% to date of our current taxes. However, with our delinquent tax collections and our penalties and interest, we exceed 100%.
Well, then, would you, I'll
I
move
just
it.
take out and get it.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Count, second by Commissioner Masso. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, thank you.
Item number 9, receive submission of ad property tax calculations for the 2012 levy.
These are the required steps are that we need to calculate our effective and our rollback tax rates. They need to be published in the newspaper, they need to be posted on our website. All of that has been done, preparation for recommending our tax rate to you. And again, it's just an acknowledgement that you're receiving these calculations.
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner Masso,
Second.
second by Commissioner Count. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Item number 10, consider and take action to set the 2012 ad valorem tax rate for the Brownsville Navigation District at .045200 per $100 valuation. This rate is comprised of a debt portion of .037100 per $100 valuation and a maintenance and operation portion of .008100 per $100 valuation. This rate is projected to produce a decrease in tax revenues of $4,986 and is less than the rollback rate of .046000 per $100 valuation, and is less than the effective tax rate of .046100 per $100 valuation. This is a rate reduction of .001630 per $100 valuation, or 3.48%.
Okay. If you all are ready to set a tax rate, this would be the appropriate time to do it. She's actually read everything that you need to know about it. It is a tax rate reduction, it is a tax levy reduction, and it does generate approximately what we did last year in maintenance and operations, with enough to cover our general obligation taxes.
So it's going, I'm sorry, it's going from .042 to .037?
No.
Well, it was
It's,
.0468.
The current tax rate is .046830. That's the current rate. That's the rate we have in effect now.
Okay.
The purpose for the calculations is essentially to determine what is your basis for talking about having a rate increase or a rate decrease. The effective tax rate of .046100 is the effective tax rate. That is designed to generate the same amount of revenue as prior year. And in effect, any deviation from this up or down is your tax change. If we were to set it at the effective tax rate, it means it's not a tax increase. It is still lower than the tax rate we have now. The rollback rate is at .460, and that means, and because of the way this thing is, and because our debt and the way it's structured, it's been going down every year. What we would recommend is that you would adopt a tax rate that's even less than the effective tax rate, and it would be .045270. We know that it is important that we maintain the streak, if you will, of actually doing a tax decrease, not simply adopting the effective tax rate, but actually adopting a rate that's even lower. So this, in effect, is a tax decrease. And so staff's recommendation would be that you look at adopting the rate of .045270, which is less than the effective tax rate, and it is less than the current rate that you have.
That would be 45200. Yeah.
Yes.
Right.
Okay, now I understand.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I think that's great news. I'd like to make the motion.
Commissioner, I'm going to make the motion.
Then I'll second it.
Second by Commissioner Count. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Again, it is a tax rate decrease. I think in the information in your
0.45.
package,
200?
you'll see that, I think that, some of the published info is you'll see that you're actually paying less today for the average value of a house in the district than you were paying for the average value house in the district in 1996. And Debbie provided all that information, and you can see just that history of that tax rate decline for the past 19 years.
So that's great. 19 years, right, we're staying right on track.
Amen.
Item number 11, consideration and action on assignments, negotiations, easements, subleases, and contracts in general. Item 1, Petro Corn LLC, authority to negotiate.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, Petro Corn is requesting a new lease at the fishing harbor for the purpose of filtration of loop oil. Their lease under contract 3691 was terminated due to defaults and rentals. They're now paid up and current, and they are requesting a new lease. The staff is asking.
This is the one that recycle oil there?
Yes, sir, at the fishing harbor, the one that built the tanks right by the
Yes.
sewer treatment plant.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Motion by Commissioner Ramírez.
I'll second it.
Second by Commissioner Count. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Aye.
Item number 2, Autolíneas Arequipe, SDA, SCB, authority to negotiate.
This current lease to Autolíneas RPG is due to expire August 16. They're requesting a new lease. This is also another transportation yard on Patio West, and we have notified all of the lessees there that we're willing to give them another year. So the staff is asking for authority to negotiate an additional year.
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner Reese.
I'll second.
second by Commissioner Cohen. All in favor?
Aye.
Item number 3, Paso Aguila
Aguila.
Inc. and Monita Inc., authority to negotiate.
Paso Aguila, under contract 3453, is in the process of selling their improvements to Monita Inc. at the Fishing Harbor, and they're requesting the release of these, subject to us, the BND, negotiating a new lease with Monita Inc. It would be for the purpose of boat tie-up and maintenance. Monita Inc. is, it's Benjamin Lopez. He is with 5 Lopez Brothers, and he is a lessee at the Fishing Harbor already, and is in good standing with the port. And has purchased one of the boats of the Paso Aguila, so needs additional space.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Reed, second by Commissioner Cohen. All in favor?
Item number 4, 905 BND Inc., authority to negotiate.
This contract to 905 Logistics is due to expire on the 18th of this month, and they're requesting a new lease. They do crushing, grinding, bagging, and warehousing of minerals. This is one of 3 sites, and they're asking for a new lease, so.
Is this the one on 48?
This is the, right here, this is the one.
Inside the board there?
This is all 48.
Okay, I know, okay, the one back here
Yes, sir.
off of Mineral Road.
And they
Yeah.
have this one, and they have another.
Yes,
over here.
okay, but the one they're talking about right now
This
is
is
this
the one
one?
right here.
Motion by Commissioner Arapula,
I'll second it.
second by Commissioner Cohen. All in favor? Thank you.
Thank you.
Item number 12, consideration and action to review the investment policy and investment strategy and to adopt a resolution certifying that the investment policy and the investment strategy have been reviewed and have been adopted by the board.
Commissioners, this is an annual task that we have to undertake. As I went through checking out the government code, there were some changes made last fall, and I've gone through all the changes and picked 4 and set up the report. Essentially, they opened up new investments, which we don't like to add to our investment policy, and a lot of them were not for the port, for ports, they were for school districts and other entities. I've listed the explanatory notes, cover all of the changes that we've made. We are adding one account to our listing of BND accounts. In case we start getting construction funds in for Dock 16, we'll have an account under the policy to hold them. And other than that, they're just really to get into compliance with the changes. What we'll be doing is adopting a resolution which you review the policy and the strategy, which is an attachment.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I was going to ask, if it was your recommendation, Eddie's, that we adopt this?
Yeah, every year, you're required to review the policy, whether you propose any changes or not, and we bring it to you every year. There have been some statutory changes, so those have been incorporated into this. You know, we know we're getting a grant for $12 million, so we might as well make those changes, incorporate the statutory changes in review. Other than that, you know, we are not a big investor in terms of how we diversify our investment portfolio. We really don't. So, but we are required to do this on an annual basis, and you are required to acknowledge receipt and approve changes, or even if we don't change, you're still required to say you reviewed it.
Ask a question, because I'm a little bit confused. The statute authorized, for instance, using letters of credit as an investment. It doesn't require us to.
It doesn't.
But are you amending the policy to include the option
Yes.
We
Okay.
do use actually letters of credit from our bank
for
or
collateral?
collateral.
Okay, so that will now be an authorized investment under the policy?
It is. It's been authorized under the statute evidently for a while. And when the bank came in and asked us to accept a letter of credit, we went back to the statute. So we're now incorporating that in the policy specifically.
But for investments as opposed to collateral?
That's correct.
In money market, which is now an authorized investment, you are amending the policy to say we could invest in money market funds.
That's correct.
But the statute would not require us
That's correct.
to make that policy.
The question I had is that somewhere in here, I know we have an investment committee and it calls for an investment committee. And
It does, and actually what we've changed is we've indicated that that would be the audit committee.
The audit
But
committee
the
is gonna
audit
be-
committee, the investment committee had to make approval of the training for the source of the training for the investment officers. Investment officers are required to take training every 2 years. And the investment committee was required to, it's just that it'll go to the audit committee.
And who are the investment officers?
Right now, I would be him. As you
So
get-
we only have one?
We only have one.
Okay.
And as you get another finance director, and that would be something that they would do.
Okay. Thank you.
Counselor, you feel okay with the language being presented?
I'm fine.
Policies.
Just so that I'm now comfortable that as long as the board knows, just because the statute says you can invest in these funds, you don't have to invest them, and you don't even have to authorize them in your policy. You can have a more restrictive policy than the law allows. But obviously, the legislature's pretty conservative itself.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Motion by Commissioner Reed, second by Commissioner Arambula. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jim.
Thank you, Debbie.
Item number 13, consideration and action to authorize the restructure of the Administration and Finance Department.
Hello, good evening, Mr. Chairman, Board Commissioners, Representative Seymour. In front of you, you have the information that has been previously discussed. We're looking to request approval for the restructure of the Finance Department and creating the Administrative Services Department, the Records Management, the Coordinator, and that the new department, my apologies.
The new department would be the finance department.
No. This is predicated on the Hales and Bradford report. Essentially, you have a department right now that's the Department of Finance and Administrative Service. They're recommending split it up, that you have a separate finance department, remove all those duties that are outside the area of finance. So what we're essentially saying is you would still have a finance department that would focus solely on the finance duties, accounts payable, accounts receivable, and those duties. The other duties that are associated, that are currently under that department, would be under the Administrative Services Department. Records management, the risk management, the insurance stuff, the elections, all of those other components
I just
now would
wanted
be
to make
here.
sure we only had two departments there. Thank you. That clarified. Thank you.
And, we've discussed this, and so it's ready for consideration should the board choose to do it. And essentially, what you would have in here is you're creating two new positions that we've discussed. They've not been funded. Now, in the approval of the budget amendments, we did put in there, if we approve this and go through the motions of posting the vacancies and all that, we may have a director of finance as early as November. And so we've included funding for that position starting in November of this year. If it takes us longer than that, then that's something we would spend that money. There's also the position that we discussed in last year's budget deliberations that we have presented, but not included last in the current budget, but it's here again for consideration, which is the Records Management Coordinator. So essentially, when we do this separation and you have that complete, then that position would allow us to focus, on a day-to-day basis on the implementation of the records management program.
And the record management position would be under the auspices of the administrative director.
The designated records manager would not change. That would continue to be, in this case, the director of administrative services. But the coordinator position is the day-to-day. We've already made the investment in the equipment and the software to implement the program, but we don't have that structured focus to make sure that we're going forward, not only on the current records, but also on the future records.
Well, I'd like to let Mr. Arambula make that motion, since he's the one that wanted to put the records management person on position, but he's been fought hard for a couple of years now to get that. That sounds like you to make the motion.
Thank you, Commissioner. Any questions on that? Or
I'll second it if you want to make the motion.
Floor is yours, gentlemen.
I mean, this is what the health Bradford report said.
I'm comfortable.
I'm comfortable. You're comfortable? I'm comfortable. Okay.
That's what we recommended, so let's.
We need to vote on it?
Of course.
Yes, because it would be amending the organizational chart, and it does include for the Director of Finance separate, that's not so much a new position, but the Director of Administrative Services, because we're splitting those up, and then the Records Management Coordinator, which currently is not in our organizational chart. So that is a position, and when we have positions that are new in the org chart, it's customary that those are presented for the board for adoption and inclusion.
Is the organizational chart going to be up for discussion on the retreat that we're going to have on Saturday?
No. I mean,
It might be a good idea just to give us an overall, I guess, breakdown of all that at the retreat.
well, you have a copy of the retreat agenda there. It was on your table when you arrived.
Because it's on the attachment.
This has already been posted. and
That's
everything.
correct, it's been posted.
Because we could always bring that up and have a workshop on that subject anytime.
Yeah, that would be a good idea.
Because we've got a lot of stuff on this agenda. Keep us very busy Saturday.
I'll make the motion.
Motion by Commissioner Reed.
As presented.
Motion by Commissioner Reed.
I think you
Second that,
have
yes.
Second?
Second by Commissioner Ramos. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, sir.
Keep in mind that all this will do is begin the process for the search for those positions. We are not filling them tomorrow.
Yes, sir. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you, sir.
Item number 14, consideration and action to authorize the staff to advertise for bids for the re-roofing or repairs to roofs on shed 7 and shed 8.
You had essentially talked about that, just to offer bids. Now, keep in mind that we can go the traditional route, or we can go looking at a new format. And so I know that Joe and Nadia, and we've been talking to different presenters about that. So we need to repair those sheds. It looks like we have an opportunity to do so at a cost that may be substantially less than what we anticipated. And we just need to go through that process. And we will bring the results of those bids and those recommendations for your consideration in the future meeting.
To make a motion, we go ahead and approve that.
I'll second.
Motion by Commissioner Collins, second by Commissioner Masso. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Aye.
Item number 15, consideration and action to ratify the staff's action in advertising for statements of qualifications for information technology support services.
Commissioners, this is a project we've been needing to attend to for quite some time. We've got the statements of qualification requests ready. We did begin advertising. Actually, yesterday we had a pre-bid conference with 2 bidders who had picked up packets. We expect our bids in next Tuesday, and we should have the recommendations for you back the first September meeting. So we would ask your ratification of the fact that we have already started the advertising.
Who showed up?
True Solutions and their link, that link, they're also.
And I'm going to just ask a question. Again, I mean, this is fine, our technician, our RFQ is supposed to come before the board first.
It says ratify.
Well,
I mean, y'all have gone out and,
we've gone out and
did
advertised.
they ever come to the board first?
Our policy permits us to go ahead and start
Okay.
advertising before and we have to have permission before we can actually open a bid.
So we're ratifying the action is what the state
Just
is.
advertising for it. But I think we need to talk about why we're doing this, and really why we're doing it is that we've grown substantially. We can no longer kind of patch it in ourselves or do that.
Security is
More
really
technology, more software. We've gotten to the point where we really need some support. And so,
Leave that.
Well, I'm all for it, I don't have a problem with it. I guess my concern is are we qualified as a staff to put together a bid package without talking to somebody in the industry as to what we really need. I mean, y'all are dealing with day-to-day, and that's great. And y'all understand certain things, but we're growing, we're going to continue to grow.
And we
It may-
did, we did actually get advice from our current technician. I know that we borrowed some bid packets from the county. That's the one that I saw that the marketing department did. We did draw heavily on some outside help.
Is our current technician one of the,
Yes.
He's one of the bidders?
Well, we helped work on this, and that is not where we got that information. We did not get it from our current provider. We got it from outside sources.
And we only had 2 people bid on this, lots of companies out there, we only
Well,
had 2.
we got 2 people that picked up packages so far. I mean, we don't know how many are going to submit a proposal whether they choose to. We advertise for the purpose of letting as many people know. Now, if we can do more, and should we do more than just advertise, and we can send one out to everybody in the yellow pages or do this, but I mean.
It's a good beginning.
We are.
Well, and keep in mind, we're asking for just statements of qualifications. This is not a bid. We're asking them to provide a service, and they're giving us back input as to their qualifications to provide the service. So, I mean, money's not involved.
And how did we put this in the paper? How did we advertise on our website? How did we do this?
Actually, what, you put it on the newspaper. Actually, I had calls from the Southern gentleman that he was interested in receiving a packet, so we contacted him.
From out of town.
No, actually, he's from Brownsville. We had calls from New Jersey. They're good. So we've had some interest way outside.
I'll make the motion.
Motion by Commissioner
Second
Masso,
it.
second by Commissioner Ramos. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Item number 16, consideration and action to authorize staff to enter into agreement with Northwestern Mutual Life Insurance Company for the renewal of short-term disability insurance.
Mr. Chairman, board commissioners, this evening we will again here to request permission to enter into agreement with Northwestern Mutual to renew our short-term disability insurance. It would be effective for the next 2 years. We do have the opportunity, and we will request bids likely in a few more weeks. And should we receive a better offer before the end of the year, we can go ahead and switch into a better agreement that would be in the best interest of our employees and for the court come January.
There's no penalty for termination if that were to occur. Okay. I'll move that
Motion
motion.
by Commissioner Cowan, second by Commissioner Masso. All those in favor?
Aye.
You are permitted.
Item number 18, adjournment to executive
My
session.
Masso did, I made the motion, you can pass it second.
That's it?
Little League World Series.
Item 19, possible action by matter discussed. 19, item 20, public comment period. Item 21, adjourned.
Motion to adjourn.
Just a reminder, on Saturday, we're going to start serving breakfast at 7:30.
7:30.